Attorney Paul Harding joins us.
1-800-LAW-1010.
Paul.
Good morning. Good
morning. Morning, sunshine.
How many times in your life did you have to put up with Harding, har? I'm just curious.
I would say more in the early years, and then Harding name also had additional
stiffness
connotations that I think as I got older they were a little rougher. So the Harding har was early on, and yes.
Were you ever tempted to use something in your advertising like, he's hard on insurance companies?
No one's ever suggested that. I haven't thought of it. No. But
I wouldn't recommend it.
Do you mind if we? Okay, you're probably right.
No, but that's yours. So I just want 10 cents for it.
I always try to stay away from the anything with the hard on anything. Yeah, so I definitely we probably will not be using that. Yeah.
Paul, I love you. That was hilarious. Do you realize what you just said?
No. I don't.
Good answer.
All right, so legally speaking, what are we talking about today?
Well, what's been going on? The bus driver from Shenandoah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been in the news for a long time. They do a drug test. She has marijuana in her system, and she gets fired. The arbitrator for CSEA CSEA defends it. The arbitrator says, no, you're going to get your job back. The Supreme Court, which is the next review process, says, no, you're fired. And now the appellate division, it comes out and says, you have to give her job back.
What is the legal argument for giving her job back?
But Shen says no.
And then Shen says no, and they have one more place to go if the Court of Appeals were to look at it. But, boy, we're just tired of hearing about it. It comes down to this. I think that they said they had a zero-tolerance policy for drugs. They said they had a policy. Unfortunately, they didn't have a policy in writing. The policy that was in the collective bargaining agreement did not say that. So I believe it's one of these deals that the appellate division looked at it very hard and said, no, we get it. We get the fact that she probably shouldn't be back, and we get the fact that the school doesn't want her back, but that was not in the agreement between the transportation folks and the school.
I am absolutely perplexed by the idea that somebody could take all kinds of prescription drugs and one person maybe takes a hit 2 weeks ago of a joint at a party and they're going to lose their job. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's the school's got to take a position, and because, of course, what they're getting is they're getting letters and phone calls and emails from parents saying, we don't want anyone who's intoxicated in any way or has it in their system driving our kids.
Now, question, was she high at the time?
No.
They're saying no.
How long does pot stay in your system?
30 days.
Love you jumped on that. Yeah, I've always heard 30 days.
I love you jumped on that.
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that law needs to be corrected.
I have to agree with Ellen.
But what if she was like on vacation in Jamaica where it's legal? And
look, you could take a Vicodin, okay, and it'd still be in your system. I don't know how long the afterlife of narcotic drugs are. And she couldn't get fired if it was prescribed legally by a doctor.
Yeah.
Same thing with alcohol. She could have
She
could
be getting bombed every day, and then
If she wasn't driving high, at the time, I can. I think your initial reaction is, yeah, fire her. I don't want my kids on the bus. But if you think about it a little bit deeper, I agree with Ellen. Why was she given the drug test? Was it random?
Yeah.
Okay.
They routinely do it, which they should.
But, then she's got to also know if she's routinely tested for drugs, you can't smoke pot.
That's true.
You can't.
I know, but it was never actually in writing, as Paul just said.
Yes, but she's routinely tested for drugs, so she knows that it's not acceptable to have drugs in your system.
Yeah, she must have been like...
I got to tell you, I've changed my mind twice in the last 45 seconds.
Yeah, but what about the mother?
Well, so did the appellate division, because there's 5 justices. The decision was 3-2, and the 2 that said she should not get her job back, they wrote a scathing dissent. So no one knows quite what to do with this, but I kind of agree that it's just a situation where when you're driving kids, you have to be holier than thou.
Yep.
And yes, I guess, a little marijuana in the system from 29 days out isn't going to affect her judgment.
No.
But right now she's working. They're going to put her through a program, and she's also going to have more of a systematic drug test.
Well,
so,
I'll tell you where
do something else.
I'll tell you where her judgment went wrong. Her judgment went wrong when she's doing a job that does drug testing and she did drugs.
Definitely, she should take care of the elderly.
Yeah. So my final change of mind is she's off the bus.
Yeah,
Paul, thank you.
But she's on the bus, so that's where we're getting all this media and all this attention. So we'll see if it gets appealed to the Court of Appeals. But we always say as it goes further up the judicial system, you get a whole different set of folks looking at it.
Right.
And right now, the appellate division 3-2 says she gets her job back, and hopefully CSEA can find a better way to spend their money.
Paul, we got to go.
1-800-LAW-1010.
1-800-LAW-1010. Paul, we talk to you again next week.
Yes. Bye bye.
All right.